Today's episode is sponsored by Anchor. If you haven't already heard of Anchor, it's one of the easiest ways to make a podcast. I even use Anchor myself, and from personal experience, I 100% recommend Anchor for those who want to start a successful podcast. First of all, Anchor is 100% free, which is great for beginners. Next, there are tools that allow you to record and edit episodes from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your own podcast so it can be heard everywhere: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else you listen to your podcast at. The best part is, using Anchor can even make you some money. No minimum listenership. Everything you need to create your podcast is all in the Anchor app, and that's why I love it. Download the free Anchor app on the App Store or go to anchor.fm. Again, to download the Anchor app, go to the App Store or anchor.fm to get started. Thank you so much, Anchor, for sponsoring this episode of Readability. Welcome to Readability. I'm your host, Ashley Kelson. In Readability, we read all kinds of stories, from short storybooks to large chapter books. You could sit down with family or just lay back and relax. Every Saturday, we read, review, and recommend different books for your listening pleasure. I really hope you enjoy Readability. Let's get started. All right, let's get on to our Readability kickoff session. Why, hello there, fellow readers. It's your Readability host, Ashley. For today's episode, I wanted to give a review of The Night Garden by Polly Horvath. Not much to say, but of course, thank you all for your support on Readability. But besides that, let's get on to the episode. I hope you enjoy it. There's a lot to cover in this book, so I'll try to make this as short and straightforward as possible. It starts with the Whitecrafts receiving a new baby from a caseworker who is unable to deliver it because the people next door, who were the ones to receive the baby, were dying in a fire. Yeah, and just like that, when the baby is in Mrs. Whitecraft's or Sina's hands, the caseworker has a heart attack right on their doorstep. And that's just the beginning. Later on, we see old Tom, or Mr. Whitecraft, even though nobody calls him that. Sina, well, her real name is Thomasina, but since this book is in the daughter's point of view, people call her Sina. And finally, Franny, the Whitecraft daughter. A woman nicknamed Crying Alice has to drop off her children in order to get her husband stable and not do something wild. The Maddens, Winifred, Wilfred, and Zebediah, stay at the Whitecraft's house while going on wild adventures and finding out things about what Mr. Madden, or Fixing Bob, is up to. Zebediah sends and receives letters from his father, and Winifred and Franny want to find out what it's all about. The plot of this story is very interesting and wild. Polly Horvath has a great way to get her readers engaged in the story that she's telling. Now, there are some things I wanted to mention about this novel. The way Polly writes a story may be a bit confusing for younger readers or readers who have trouble understanding the writing in general, so just be aware of that. There are 304 pages throughout the book, and in those 304 pages, there are 22 chapters. The book itself did not win an award, but Polly Horvath is a National Book Award winner. The publishing brand was Square Fish. If I had to rate this book out of 5 stars, now, don't get angry, but I would most likely give it a 2.5 out of 5. The reason I'm giving this book a 2.5 rating is because this book was pretty confusing and had me thinking, wait, what? Of course, it's not terrible. I wouldn't say something like, burn it in a fire, but it's not a book I would want to read again, though if I had to, I would. The plot was pretty good, but the way the information was said was pretty hard to process in my brain. At some points in the book, I had to reread a sentence to get what Polly was trying to explain in the line. And occasionally, she would word a phrase that sounds incorrect, but is still grammatically correct. Now, would I recommend the book? I mean, not really. And what I mean by that is it's not the best book, as I've been mentioning multiple times before. Like any other person, you want to give a recommendation of something you personally really like and want others to enjoy as much as you did. For me, this wasn't a book I really enjoyed, so I wouldn't recommend this to kids my age. But yes, I am fully aware that if I do recommend this to somebody, this could be a book they would enjoy. But personally, I just wouldn't recommend this book to someone else. Besides all that, let's see some things I really enjoyed throughout this book. I really liked how close Franny is with Sina. Their mother and daughter relationship is not too present, I think, in the books, but you can tell how close they are and they really love each other. Of course, old Tom does love Franny too, but is not as shown in the story. Winifred and Franny's process of figuring out what Zebediah is trying to hide from them is also pretty entertaining. It's mostly Winifred who is determined to figure out what her little brother is up to, but Franny does tag alongside Winifred, and it seems pretty entertaining. And finally, the mysteries behind the night garden itself. It gives the reader a bit of suspense and makes them think, I wonder this, I wonder that. And I think that's a good thing to have in this kind of book. The characters in the story have different personalities, of course, but they are still just a little bit bland. We have Zebediah, the curious, crazy, and interesting 6-year-old. Then we have Wilfred, the bland, normal 9-year-old boy. Sure, they may have different personalities and ages, but I don't think Polly gives a lot of character in them. The character I dislike the most would have to be Fixing Bob. Now, this is what I think. If he hadn't believed that he could fly the plane he wasn't supposed to, most of this would have really never happened. And for spoiling reasons, I won't go deep into them. My favorite character is Sina. I think she's super talented and is pretty witty. Sina is also caring of close family members, and especially of her only daughter, Franny. Even if this may not be the most positive episode, I really hope you enjoyed my review on The Night Garden by Polly Horvath. I had a great time creating this, and I hope you think it was worth it. It is now time to listen to our official readability ending. Thank you for joining me, your host, Ashley Kelson, on Readability. It has been a really great time, and I hope you join me again next week. Remember, every Saturday we either read, review, or recommend a book for your listening pleasure. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Keep reading, folks. Bye!